The Benjamin Dixon Show is only possible with listener support. Go to www.patreon.com/The BPD Show.
We'll talk about something specific that is political, that does deal with our current politics of the day, has everything, everything is political. Let's start there. Everything is political. Nothing in life is not political. From something as mundane as the distance between the dashes on the road, the yellow dashes or the white dashes, depending on where you're driving, from something as mundane to that, all the way to your ability to choose to do what women choose to do with their body. Everything is political. And so from that aspect, no matter what I talk about on this show, there's always going to be a political component. And the truth is that the reason I talk about it is that I feel like our politics are very constrained, constraining, and myopic. What I'm going to talk about will help people to understand better why the ruling elite in this country have been able to get away with so much for so long. Not just this country, but across the planet. It's something interesting about history. It's a succession of ambitious and violent men seeking power. Sometimes glory, but always power. And that power has always come at the expense of the masses. And so what we have throughout history is a pyramid scheme, an economic and political power pyramid scheme, where the masses are at the bottom of the hierarchy, and at the top you have the ambitious, violent men. Overwhelmingly, predominantly men, very few exceptions, notable exceptions. What we've told ourselves about this history is that hierarchy of rulers, conquerors, kings, the nobility, the robber barons, the capitalists, the tech CEOs, what we've told ourselves about this hierarchy through history is that those people are special. We're consistently told the theme that the reason those people are at the top is because they're special. They had a certain trait about them. They took risks. They worked hard, violent in their own way. The violence is merely different now. They don't have to use their swords. They don't have to use their AK-47s anymore. Now, America does in general. We still control and dominate the global stage as an empire, but I'm talking about individuals. I'm not really talking about states and countries so much as individuals. The way individuals dominate society with their violence as it is today is through economic power. But still, regardless of how they conquered, regardless of their conquests, throughout history, it's the consistent narrative of these people are victorious because there was something special about them. They took some risk. They were born into some noble line. They were whatever. And consistently throughout history, you see the hierarchy, the pyramid scheme of how we organize society, where the uber elite, the wealthiest, the richest, they are at the top of society. And that position in society is only sustained by the base of the triangle, the base of the pyramid, right? Which is all of us, you and me. The reality of it is that there's not a damn thing special about any person in history that isn't special about all of us. I don't believe that anyone is inherently more special than the next person. The pyramid scheme has us thinking that the way things work in society and the way things should work in society and the way society should be built and structured and maintained is by the unwashed masses doing all of the necessary work to create the society and sustain the society for each upper echelon, ultimately leading to the ruling elite at the very top of that hierarchy. That's the way it's been organized. I mean, just take a gander through history. It literally is a succession of strong men. Then we have the Enlightenment, and we had the French Revolution, and we had or vice versa, the American Revolution, French, and we have a shift to where now it becomes more centered around the idea of democracy. But even the ambitious, violent men found a way to work and circumvent democracy by buying democracy through our politicians. And now we still have a society that's organized like a pyramid scheme. The same fictitious narrative persists to this day, that Mark Zuckerberg is where he is because he did something special, or there was something uniquely special about him that no one else could do. And if it wasn't for Mark Zuckerberg being a risk taker, then we wouldn't have this tech giant called Facebook, that happens to only sustain itself by you and I giving them our data on a constant basis and participating on those platforms on a constant basis. But no, Mark Zuckerberg, he's a special person. And because he's special, he deserves billions of dollars that he earns off of our participation on his website. The inevitable turn of events that happens when society is ordered that way, it always ends in violence. It always ends in revolution. It always ends with some destabilizing moment in history to a greater or lesser extent. Some puts us in a period of dark ages. And that's because we never learned a lesson. Society is still testing the same lesson over and over, failing the same test over and over and over again. Over and over and over again. And we're just trying it in different iterations, trying to see if we can consistently get away with organizing society where the elite are at the top and everyone else at the bottom, who literally are you don't have a pyramid without the base. You simply do not have a pyramid without the base. So it's completely impossible for the elite, rhetorically, logically, and practically, rather literally, it is completely impossible for an elite to exist. It is completely impossible for elite to exist without the base. And what always happens throughout history, you can take every single empire, every single kingdom, every single period in history. You have a ruling elite that eventually and inevitably abuses their power, abuses their authority, and ultimately abuses the bottom of their society, the base, and it inevitably leads to what's happening today is far more insidious than just the outright open abuses. What happens today is that the ruling elite actually did learn a lesson. They didn't learn the lesson that they needed to learn. A lesson that they learned was that they have to be far more sophisticated in how they get us to comply, how they get us to go along with it, how they get us to maintain this system. And I think the way that they maintain their order today is far more difficult to even realize than before. And this is why we've had such a sustained period in terms of quote unquote peace. Or when I'm defining peace as no outright revolution against the system. The way they keep us maintained today is because of what we're doing now. Entertainment, social media. More insidious than that, it's not just the entertainment and social media in and of itself, but it's the fact that our entertainment and social media is used to sell us the visions and the idea that one day we will be elite, that we will be rich, that we will be famous. And so long as we can hold on to the dream of that one day we will be the person that is at the top of that pyramid. And that's why it's a scheme, a pyramid scheme, because all they're selling us is the idea that one day we will rise to the top of that pyramid, when in reality, you're not. I'm not. We're not. Because what they tell you is that America and our system is a meritocracy, and the way Mark Zuckerberg and Jeff Bezos got there was through hard work and determination. They took two wooden nickels and they rubbed it together, and voila. And if they did it, you should be able to do it too. They didn't tell you about the fact that they all had startup capital, that Jeff Bezos' parents gave him a loan of a check of $300,000 to start Amazon. Right? So they give us these apocryphal stories, and they leave out the most important information, which was these individuals who did these great things. One, they had capital to start with. All right. Two, they had their basic needs already met, so they didn't have to worry about paying their rent, and created this Amazon, this monstrosity called Amazon. Not only did he have his basic needs met, but he had capital so that all he had to do was sit back and create. But they've got you convinced that what really happened was that he was such a hard worker. He worked 9 to 5 at a regular job, making $15 an hour. And at night he went home and started Amazon in his garage. No, he was already wealthy. He already had his basic needs met. In addition to that, and in addition to having his basic needs met, he was able to get access to capital to actually make some investments into a company. Nothing is built in this system that we currently have. Nothing is built without money. But they have the rest of us buying into this pipe dream that all we have to do is work a little harder. And if we work a little harder, then we too can become the next Jeff Bezos and build our empire. And the allure of that dream has become so intoxicating that it has lulled to sleep hundreds of millions, or dare I say even billions of people who are comfortably asleep, dreaming the pipe dream that if they just work a little bit harder, they can move up from poverty and living paycheck to paycheck and making less than $15 an hour. And they too can become a part of America's elite if they just work hard enough. Well, you realize that what you've been participating in all this time is one big sham and one big scam. And it's not for nothing. Oh no, it's not that you're running in circles for nothing. It's that they have become, the ruling elite, the billionaires, oligarchs, those who run this country both economically and politically, they have become masters of generating obscene amounts of wealth through your delusions, through your pipe dreams, through your aspirations to become like them, even though you're waiting tables. They've become masters because the harder you work, the more they get. They get through your labor. Come on, you should be able to list these by now. They generate wealth off your labor. They generate wealth off your participation, just being here, viewing this content, the exchange of data. Your participation generates wealth. They generate wealth off your consumption. So when you go out and you're working and you get off the clock, you go and eat something, their money, boom, goes right back to them. So they're getting you coming and going. So it's not that you're spinning your wheels for nothing. As you spin your wheels and get nowhere, you are an engine of economic production. You just spinning your wheels. You're not getting anywhere. Oh, but your boss is. Well, really, his boss is. You're not getting anywhere, but you're creating some activity. You're generating some wealth. You're on that hamster wheel, creating that wealth. You're not getting anywhere, but every single thing that you do is creating wealth for the system, even if you're a dead ass broke. You're not getting anywhere, but the economic system is. The billionaires and the millionaires, they most certainly are. They have sold us a dream that is vivid enough to make us think that one day we'll become billionaires and Therein it lies the reason we haven't overthrown this system like previous revolutions have overthrown their system, or sometimes it was one greedy person at the top against another greedy person at the top, ultimately destroying the entire royalty, the entire nobility, right? Changing the system. But they have an agreement amongst themselves now. They have found a way that they all can have their own little fiefdoms. But they have given us a dream that is vivid enough for us to actually think that we are going to win through this system if we just work harder, knowing that, no, you're not going to win. You're just going to keep spinning your wheels, keep spinning your wheels, keep spinning your wheels. You're not getting anywhere. But the very act of you running on that hamster wheel, waking up every morning, 6 o'clock in the morning, getting dressed in some clothes that you purchased from them, getting in a vehicle, in a car that you purchased or rent or leased from them, or getting on public transportations that your taxpayers' dollar pays for, right? Going back to them, going to a job to generate wealth for them, eating at a restaurant, at a fast food joint, killing yourself as you eat that junk, but sending your money to them. You're on this hamster wheel. We're just through lunch. We haven't even gotten to the good part of the day, right? You go back to work and you slave and you generate money for them, right? If you have a breakthrough on the job, oh, by the way, we own that. Thank you for signing this contract at the beginning of your career with us for them, right? You get back in your car, you go pick up your kids from a school who has another person there who is spinning their wheels, and that money is not really going to that child care provider, but it's going back to them, right? Then you go home, take out your groceries that are all coming from some big box store. Your dollars are going to them. You watch TV. Your participation watching TV generates ad revenue for them. You go to sleep in a bed that you purchased from them, and you wake up and do it all over again for them. And at the end of the month, at the end of the year, what do most of us have to show for it? Nothing. What do they have to show for it? Everything. Where the hell did they get it from? You. Which brings me to the thing I really wanted to talk about. The reality about the elite is that there's absolutely, literally nothing whatsoever special about them above and beyond the ordinary human. Nothing. The only difference is that they had a certain level of need already met. They didn't have to worry about working 15 hours a day for $15 an hour. They had those needs. They didn't have to worry about where they were going to sleep. They want you to believe in this country that you can go from homelessness to becoming a billionaire if you just work hard enough. And they keep telling us that lie. And that lie is enshrined in our politics. But the reality of this pyramid scheme is, like I said, there's very few people at the top that would not be there without every single one of us at the bottom. It's simply not possible to have the top of a pyramid without the base of the pyramid. There's nothing special about a single billionaire on the face of this planet. Nothing. Nothing inherently special. They don't have a DNA or a biology or a physicality that actually makes them different. They just had their needs met and capital to invest. And a basic bum-ass idea. No, you're already like them. You just don't have your basic needs met. And you just don't have access to capital because we still live in a capitalistic system where everybody needs money to get shit done. What we miss is the fact that instead of depending on a handful of tech bros to take us into the future, we could benefit from the collective contribution of billions of people who are able to go beyond subsistence living. You would think that the ruling elite would have learned their lesson, and the lesson is this: we have to, at some point in the course of human history, turn this pyramid upside down, where the masses have enough and the masses are afforded an opportunity to explore their greatness Whereas in every period in the past, it's been, you see how I flipped that triangle, right? The pyramid is flipped. The masses need to have that opportunity. But in the past, it was a small subset of rulers who were able to explore their greatness. What would you do if you were not struggling? Like, I don't want you to tell me tell me whatever you want to tell me. Honestly, just whatever comes to your mind. But I'm looking for answers that are along the line of like, what is your hope for humanity that you would explore if you were not strangled by this sadistic rat race that we call the American dream? And the truth is, most of us have never been afforded the luxury, the unbelievable luxury of sitting around and thinking great thoughts. We've been too busy just trying to survive. And therein lies the problem with our entire society. Now, I think I can finally get to Maslow's hierarchy of needs. You learn about this in middle school. Physiological needs at the bottom: air, water, food, shelter, sleep, clothing, reproduction. Safety needs: personal, security, employment, resources, health, property. I really lump those first two together. Safety needs and physiological needs, those are critical. Love and belonging, friendship, intimacy, family, sense of connection. All these are critical. You can't really move to the next level without having the previous level. Esteem, respect, self-esteem, status, recognition, strength, and freedom. We are human creatures after all, right? The idea that we don't need that green row is a lie. We need respect. We need self-esteem. We need status. We need recognition. We need strength. That's the ego. We need freedom. We need those things. And then actual self-actualization to become the most that one can be. Anyway, the vast majority of our society is stuck in physiological needs. Just to get food, just to get water, just to have shelter. Where am I going to sleep tonight? Clothing and reproduction. Safety needs: personal security, employment, resources, health, property. Most of society is stuck at the bottom of this. Love and belonging. What's interesting about this is that most of us in any level of this, we try our best to still find some love and belonging, family, right? A sense of connection. Most of us are stuck at the bottom of this pyramid. And while we can find love and belonging all up and down this pyramid, the most obvious implication of this is that if the majority of our society is stuck trying to find employment, trying to find resources, trying to figure out how they're going to get their health taken care of, have absolutely no property, right? And then another half of our society is still struggling just for food and shelter, then how many of us are ever going to achieve self-actualization? If it is the case that you have to be special just to overcome the overwhelming gravity of all these things at the bottom, and that gravity is like what pulls us down, those are choices in our society. These are policy choices. The fact that anybody is without water, that anybody is without food, that anyone is without shelter, that anyone is without clothing. I can't help you with reproduction, but the fact that anyone is without those things, that's a policy decision in a country that generates so many trillions of dollars in wealth, okay? So the gravity and the weight that is pulling people from the top, or the possibility of ever achieving the top, and it's constantly pulling us down, right? Like it's collapsing inside of a black hole. The weight of that gravity is so heavy that you can't escape. You can't worry about goddamn self-actualization when you ain't got no food. Hell, I couldn't worry about exercising when I couldn't pay my rent. When I was worried about how to pay my bills, I couldn't go out and go to the gym and it just wasn't, I just couldn't do it. So there's certain things that you simply cannot accomplish if you're stuck down here trying to worry about and figure out how you're going to pay your rent. Most of society is stuck down here. And they want us, they being the ruling elite, want us to celebrate the people who have made it to the top. But the reality of it is, the only reason they made it to the top is because they had all this stuff worked out before they even left their parents' house. They had all these things worked out before they ever graduated high school. They had all these things worked out long before they graduated college. Matter of fact, they didn't even have to go to college. We have a civilization that is built off of billions of people who are all struggling at the bottom of this hierarchy. We have a handful of people who have never had to worry about any of these things. And the only thing they've ever had to worry about is self-actualization. What is my contribution to humanity? Well, I think humanity would be pleasantly surprised and unbelievably rewarded if they gave everybody a chance to ask that question. What is my contribution to society? What is my contribution to humanity? That's a policy decision at this point. The reason I'm talking about this, everything is political. There's absolutely no reason that we cannot make sure that every single person in this country has a place to eat, food, a place to live, food to eat, clothes on their back, a doctor, and a living wage, an income. I feel like I left an education. We generate enough wealth. While you are on that hamster wheel running in circles, you're generating that wealth. While you're watching this video, you're generating wealth. Not for me, except for the super chats, but outside of that, just the mere fact that you're watching a stream is generating money for these tech companies. So I don't care if you never work another day in your life. You watching content online, exchanging your data, you're giving away your data. That is one of the most valuable assets that anybody has. In fact, you should be paid. Social media companies need to pay their users because the only way social media companies make money is off of your data. So your participation alone generates wealth. Oh, by the way, you work, so your labor is generating wealth. Oh, by the way, we're some consuming ass people. Economy is 75% consumer. So they're making money off of your participation. They're making money off of your labor. They're making money off of your consumption. Oh, don't forget your taxes, state, local, federal. Whether you pay income or not, you're paying local taxes, sales taxes. You're paying these fines and tickets that you get. That's just another form of taxes. So they're making money off of you at every single turn. And we generate enough wealth with everything that you do to ensure that every person in this country, basically on the face of this planet, can have a place to stay, can have food to eat, can have an education through college, can have a doctor, and can have a wage. We literally make enough wealth to do all that. And oh, by the way, we can still have billionaires. And I'm not saying that because I give a shit about billionaires, because the other option for them is not really one that history has ever boded well for. You guys are morons. You really think you're going to get away with this for much longer? I'm sorry. Maybe they get away with it for their lifetime. The cycles of history are true. It's inevitable. It will inevitably come unless we change what we're doing. And what we've done throughout history, it has always been the pyramid scheme where a select few at the top are given the opportunity to explore the greatness of their own mind, the greatness of their own sentience, the greatness of their own ideas as they plunder and pilfer and destroy and cause chaos and destruction and spread disease and plague and colonization and murder and rape and all the other shit that they do to get their wealth and to maintain their wealth, which inevitably leads to revolution. So maybe, just maybe, we can look at history and say this pyramid scheme needs to be inverted. And instead of a society that only benefits a few, well, since we create enough wealth where everyone can benefit, why not create a society where everyone can have enough instead of having a society of haves and have-nots? That's just the kind of shit that I think about before I go watch Star Trek and, something Nova on PBS and, the colliding black holes and LIGO and that kind of stuff. We can pick this up tomorrow. Let's see what happens. Come hang out with me tomorrow. We'll talk more about stuff that's not political, but obviously it is political because everything I talked about, even though it's not directly political,